Welcome back to another episode. Three Uncool Cats. Alan, Bob, Andrew.
Woo.
This episode, we're going north of the border. The good border. We're talking about the best Canadian band ever. Some Rush fans may disagree, but they don't know what they're talking about. This is a band called the Tragically Hip. This album we're going to do is kind of their ones that on the U.S. side kind of started showing some legs, and it's called Day for Night, and it's from 1994. And this was my album to bring to the boys. The reason I did it, huge impact to me. Growing up towards that northern border, I had a lot of friends. Somehow they heard of it coming across the lake through those radio waves. Tragically Hip, and my buddy put this on, and when I heard this song Grace 2, it was all over for me. I was hooked from the moment it started. So I'm hoping these guys feel the same way. If they don't, that's their problem. But I always like to hear Bob's review first, so we're going to start with Bob on this one.
Oh, man. I was hoping you were going to go a little further on that one. Well, I obviously am from a different generation, different era, and I don't recall having music like this when I was young. So I got used to other things and didn't get used to this. But what I did, because your wife made a statement when we were at your house, and she said that when she first heard this album, she didn't care for it.
Yep.
And I had already listened to it once, and I had made that comment to her that I just didn't care for it. And what she told me was, after she listened to it a couple more times, it grew on her. So I thought, well, I need to give it a chance. So I did, and I listened to it a couple times. And I will say, I'm not in love with the entire album, but there are some songs that after I looked, and this is a case where I looked at the lyrics, read them, and watched them as I was listening to the songs, and then I could make sense of some things. So I'm going to read you a couple of things I have, the notes that I took. The very first song, Grace 2. Fantastic intro.
Oh, beautiful.
You were just playing it, and I thought, that is stuck in my head.
I did the same thing. I went, that mellow intro.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Let me tell you, when you hear them live, when that starts, I mean, the crowd goes absolutely insane when they do that, and it's glorious.
And I wish that our listeners could hear these as we go, and I wish there was a way to do that.
That's YouTube's fault, by the way, not ours.
Yeah.
We actually figured that part out. That's the one thing we figured out, and we can't do it anymore.
Yeah. So we have to talk about the songs themselves. So the next song, Daredevil, to me, the meaning behind that, a person chooses his own crazy ride, and he's riding over the falls.
Yep. And quintessential Canadian band, quintessential Canadian style. To me, it's odd because I live so close to Niagara Falls. I've been there. I can't even count the number of times that I've been there. And there are people that have never seen them. But there's actually a museum where it shows all the barrels that people have tried to go over the falls thinking they're going to survive that. And it's a great album, great song.
They're talking about strapping him in and putting the lid on. And then he's thinking, basically, I brought this on myself.
Yeah.
But, what I loved about the lyric on this song, okay, is, we've all had a pretty good life and we got stories to tell, right? But not everybody's willing to get outside their comfort zone. But he says, out, and in to the thrill of them all. And the real wonder of the world is that we don't jump too.
Yep.
Well, I was going to ask Andrew, being that close, did you ever feel like jumping in?
Not one second did I ever think of doing that.
That would be a crazy ride.
And when you see them too, you're like, why did people think they would last jumping off those? And they are literally, some of them, especially in the beginning, are literally barrels. with like
wood
with
barrels,
like pillows inside them.
Yeah.
And,
I've
they,
seen that.
and they think, oh yeah, I'm gonna
I've
make
seen
it.
that.
I'm gonna make it.
Yeah, not me, brother.
But though while it is kind of a crazy idea, but the point of living is risk.
Yep.
Yeah. And we all choose the crazy ride that we take.
Yeah.
Some aren't so crazy. Some are crazier than others, but
And some you don't think are crazy at the time. But.
Right. Then you look back, you're like, what a roller coaster was that? All right, so go ahead, Bob. Continue.
well, you jump in with something you've got. What albums jump and some others. I've got some notes on all of them. So
yeah. Well, I was thinking, all right, so first I got to tell you, musically, oh my gosh, this resonated with me in that grunge. I'm a blues rock guy straight. We just got finished reviewing, the Black Crowes. That's my heart. But I also love grunge, man. I love an overdriven guitar. And this is clearly, it's just so well done. Such good musicianship. When he started singing, I went, nope. Nope. The voice didn't go with what I thought the music should be. But then I got it. After a couple of songs, I went, oh yeah, okay. I'm always griping because everything's so freaking cookie cutter. This is not cookie cutter.
no, it's not.
And it
Right.
works. If you open your mind to it, it works for this type of music.
The grunge that you're talking about, when I was coming up, you could get a fuzz pedal,
Yeah.
and we called it fuzz.
Yeah.
We didn't
Yep.
call it grunge,
Yeah. Well, we still call it
Yep.
fuzz.
but it's overdriven, it's distortion, and I felt like this album for me, there was too much of that. But you got to take into account what my flavors are, what my taste is.
Yep.
So what I did was picture this with another, the Black Crowes, for instance.
Yeah.
I thought if they rounded some of the fuzz off of this, it could sound like the Black Crowes because these are really good musicians.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah. Musicians.
Yep.
I got that quick.
Even their lead parts that I felt like were, I don't know, too enhanced or too affected. I thought, if you rolled some of that off, it would
It's
be
still
a
good.
conventional
Yeah, it's
rock
still good.
sound.
Yeah.
So
And we've talked
that's
too.
just taste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've talked too about adding effects because you're really not that good of a player. You're just making
That's
noise.
not what they were doing.
These guys, like you're saying, if you'd have taken that off, it still would have been great.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But to get to your point, I get what you're saying about the style of music, but that's the style of music.
True.
Yeah.
And I understand that part. It's just hard for me to listen to over an extended period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. When I got toward the end of the album, I was. What was the word I used? Hold on. Let me check. Let me check my notes.
You need a rubber finger.
Yeah.
Put me out of my misery.
Oh, that's
Wow.
That's a long
Harsh.
word.
But then the song "Emergency" started. I said, good start. And then he started singing, and I said,
Oh.
I really
Well, that song made me anxious too. It did. I literally wrote that.
Yeah.
I'm anxious listening to this song.
But that's what they're getting at, though. They're trying. That's what I think. One thing the band does to me too is really. Each song to me brings you somewhere different emotionally. I think
You feel
And I
like
think-
you've jumped in
Yep.
30-degree water.
Yep.
And when you get back out, you're tingling and you're shaking. Same effect.
Yep.
He had a polar bear.
But then you
on.
realize, like, damn, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, what I did as soon as I finished this, and I went through to the end, and as soon as I finished this, I thought I got to listen to something calm. So I put Kenny G on.
Oh.
I did. and I almost threw up.
Oh, that makes me want to throw up for you.
That's like having that's like toothpaste and orange juice kind of thing right there.
Yeah, and I like Kenny G. So you know, it just, but it didn't. That didn't solve the problem. And really, I kind of get what you all love about it.
Yeah, it's for me. It's a flavor for a mood. It helps you when you're just like, man, I just need to, I need energy. These are the types of songs I listen to. Now, you said something that I wish you hadn't have colored it for me, and I know you didn't mean to. You didn't mean to, but you said something early on, but I feel that I would have come to the same conclusion had I not had it colored for me. Canada's Pearl Jam. So now you don't know who Pearl Jam is. Pearl Jam is they're important to me and Andrew.
And they were huge. And that's kind of one of the dichotomies with Tragically Hip is Canada, they were literally the biggest band, and as soon as they come across the border, they're playing little bars and little theaters, and I don't know why. Maybe that's why it didn't catch on. Maybe it is so Canadian that a lot of people don't catch on. But
and that's part of what I picked up on was some of the lyrics I didn't understand, and I thought that's more of a cultural disconnect.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think I'm getting what they're laying down.
Yep, and that's I think too why they're big. A lot of their to them, their fans. That's like, this is our band. This is Canada. They represent us, kind of thing, and that was a lot of what they're known for.
It's almost like rooting for a national team during the Olympics, kind of thing. Because I've seen, like you said, man. After you were telling me about this band, I started looking. I mean, it was like a cultural revolution kind of thing.
When Gord Downie died, and they literally had their last show streamed across the whole country, and the country was crying. It blew your mind that music and that human being can just reach so many people in a whole country. And,
I mean, especially the whole country of Canada. There's 47 people there.
Yeah, and it's as big as the United States.
So something else that I got out of this too that I thought was interesting is there were times that it almost sounded nonsensical in the lyrics, but then I realized, no, there's some poetry here. He is saying something.
And one thing he does too when he's live, he's really known for he does these little rants. He'll get into a song and do these little rants that sometimes you don't know exactly what something's in his head, and he gets it out and he'll tell a little story. And he was a great front man when you see him live. It was always cool because he loved it.
Yeah,
he was up there sweating, jamming with the band, and he always had a little literally pouring sweat, and he'd have a little handkerchief. But his shirt's like stuck to him because he's so sweaty, his shirt's stuck to him, and he has a little handkerchief, and he's like,
I gotta watch some live stuff with these dudes.
Well, and that's something I thought too, because that gives you a whole different dimension that you can form. Like my opinions of this now could be totally different after I see them.
Yep.
One of the songs, Nautical Disaster.
Oh,
yeah.
And I read somewhere, and I didn't do a lot of reading on them, but it was about a disaster that was off the coast of France.
Was this a real story?
Which is in the song.
Yep.
But
okay.
Then another opinion was that it was some shipwreck off of Canada.
Yeah, which would make more sense.
And they said that they
it was probably
always
Edmund Fitzgerald out in Great Lakes, like Ontario, probably.
They always use something to do with the country in all their albums.
Yep.
Really?
There's not. I don't know if there is in this one, but there's a couple.
Which that may
a lot
be.
of songs. They throw a lot of hockey references in there and stuff like that. And,
that's a neat thing.
Yeah, it is. And maybe that's one of the reasons why the country loved... I mean, obviously they were great musicians, but maybe that's one of the reasons why they had a whole country behind them.
Yeah, because just connected with it. Yeah.
So when this song started, I was like, I'm not going to like it. I'm not. And then, man, when it broke out, I was like, oh my gosh, what
Yeah.
a great
Yep.
groove. And then I started reading along with the lyrics. I was like, this is so tragic. Those left in the water were kicked off our pant
Yep.
leg, and
Yep.
we headed for home.
Yeah.
Tragic and brutal, you know. And then and at the end, when he's thinking about it, as those fingernails scratching
Yep.
my hole.
Yep.
Dark.
He's amazing singer. I think he's very poetic. Inevitability of death, which is hard to say.
Yeah.
To me, it kind of shows a lot of his lyrical style, because like the way the chorus is kind of the same, but he twists words around. The same words he uses, but he'll twist them around. And that's kind of one of his styles too. He does that a lot.
There's
in
another
a lot
thing
of
that
his
he
songs.
does, and I at first thought he could be using a book and just putting the lines that are in a paragraph into the song, because they don't rhyme. It's just a continuance of
But you know, I love that.
a sentence. But then I went back and looked, and they do rhyme. It's just that
It's the
they're
cadence.
spaced. Yes.
Yep.
They're
Yeah.
spaced out
Yep.
differently.
Yeah. I thought the same. I thought the same thing. But to me, it's refreshing, because after a while, I get sick of forced rhymes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, where you go, okay, that's not quite right. You know, but stop focusing on the rhymes and tell me something.
Yeah.
They're telling us something here
Yeah.
in these songs. And like, you know, one of my favorite lyrics is, everyone's got their breaking point. With me, it's spiders.
Yep.
With you, it's me.
I picked up on that.
There is so much self-awareness in that statement. And he was probably married.
Yep. And kind of along those lines too is Scared. The way he talks about the relationship and Scared in that song.
Yes.
There's some great lyrics in that too.
And that's what I liked. You know, even like Bob said, there were times I'm like, what is he saying? But he was saying some
Yeah.
stuff. You know.
I want to pick your brain for a second on one.
There isn't much left to pick.
Yawning or snarling. You know, apparently something happened in El Paso.
Yes.
And clearly the cops were looking for someone in a crowd
Yes.
of all kinds of people, and it wasn't readily clear whether the guy was snarling or yawning.
But think about this. Here's
That they
what I
were
got.
looking for.
Yeah, here's what I got. When he sees this picture, as he's
To me,
looking,
it's like what's his intention?
yeah,
You're reading your own thoughts into what that person was doing.
It's all
in my
about
opinion.
context.
Yeah.
But I got the sense that whatever happened in this story he was telling us, he was looking at it from an artist point of view. You know, without knowing, was this a snarl or was it a laugh?
Yep.
You know, and he leaves us look at the conversation we're having.
Did you
on it.
find yourself forming your mouth as if you were yawning and imagining, could it be a snarl?
Yep. So I love this song. It was my favorite song on the album.
It had a nice bass part.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wanted to listen. So this was, as I'm listening through the album. When I listened to this song, I went, I want to listen to it again before I go further. No, let's listen to the whole context of the album. And you know, I just, you know, like you said, it's like walking through El Paso and putting random thoughts to paper.
Yep.
You know, we were just talking about that.
Yep.
Yeah, I just thought it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
You ever been to El Paso?
I've been to Texas. Not a big fan, really.
I passed through it once.
Oh,
I had a comedy gig in El Paso. Okay,
Didn't work, did it?
so I had a comedy gig in El Paso, right? So
Is this where you did the stage was a pallet?
no, that was New Mexico, but it was on that. It was on that. So I don't know if I told you this. So I get booked on this gig, and there was a bunch of one-nighters to get to the big club, right? So I show up in New Mexico. It's me and this other dude. At the time, 32, maybe. I don't remember.
Was Mr. White there?
No, but that's funny. Yeah, so the other guy was an older gentleman with me. He was in his 50s, right? So we share a car. We go to Carlsbad, New Mexico, and we're thinking, all right, it's a one-nighter, it's a hell gig. Well, it wasn't a one-nighter, it was one afternooner, which we're like, comedy in the afternoon? Yeah. So it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We show up, and it's this little white brick building. It was maybe 300-400 square feet, if it was that, and it was a gas station. And we walked in, and we were the only English-speaking people there. And there was a pallet in the corner. And the woman was like, "You a comedian? And we're like, yeah. And so I looked at Gary. Gary goes,
"Make us laugh,
yeah."
Gringo."
He goes, yes. They were so sweet. There were little kids there. I was a PG-13 comic, but the guy I was with, he was rated R, right? And he goes, "Does anybody speak English?" And she went, enough.
Enough.
So we did our gig. She paid us our money, and we went to the Carlsbad Caverns. But
did they laugh?
yes, but it was polite laugh.
Oh.
Because I don't think they... But anyway, so we end up in New Mexico, right? A couple of nights later, right? And this is official. It's a real comedy club. You know, we've done our hell gig to get to the comedy club. So I tell this joke about Darth Vader, right, being your daddy, right? And I made a little sexual innuendo. After the show, this guy walks up to me and says, "I'll be your daddy."
Uh-oh.
I was like,
I'm not going to El Paso,
I was
then.
like, nope.
El Paso for me.
So
I
anyway,
will El Paso
Yeah.
on that.
we are way off the subject.
Yeah.
That's the best part about it, though.
Yeah, so, but talking lyrically, when Scared, you were talking about Scared there for a second. This could become one of my favorite songs of all time. Now think about that.
That's a pretty deep love song to me.
It is. And that's what I said. I said it's deep.
Yep.
It's quirky. It's well sung. It's well played, and it has such a great vibe. And I ended up what?
Uh-oh. He's like, that was the worst song I've ever
So
heard.
probably. And I said it's the best song on the album. I love the indie funk vibe. I liked his voice, the guitar work, the lyrics were not typically what you hear on a song like this. It's usually heartbreak or drinking, but this was deeper, like you said. I wrote the same thing. But he says, now there's a focus group that can come to prove this is all nothing but cold calculation.
Yep, I love that line.
Wow, deep.
Okay, so I would have had to have paid attention to the lyrics then, right?
The one time you didn't.
Wow. Well, let me tell you what I said. And to me, it was just the cadence of the song that brought me to write this comment. Vocal line, the lead vocal line sounds like Wayne Brady and Ryan Stiles on Whose Line Is It Anyway, doing a song to the guitarist and the piano player when they make it up as they go.
Yes.
It sounded like one of those to me.
Well, I'll tell you this. Props for, referencing Whose Line Is It Anyway, but you're wrong. That needs to be one of our shirt merchandise.
Yeah, but you're wrong.
But you're wrong. Because we all have said that to each other. So I'm telling you, that was the deepest song.
I thought it makes me tear up sometimes.
It's okay. We're all different. We're all different.
I worry about Bob sometimes.
Oh, my.
What'd you think about An Inch an Hour?
2 feet a day.
I said it's a Canadian thing.
Yeah. Look, not a fan. Worst song on the album for me. Didn't like
Really?
it. Yeah, didn't like it.
Hey, it was next to the... Never
It
mind.
was his favorite song.
I didn't care for his voice in that song.
Yeah.
And I felt like the jam was monotonous to me.
Yeah, I just didn't get... That's the only song I didn't get. When
See,
I
think the monotony is part of what I think what he's trying to
I agree.
convey, though, in that song. See, that goes back to my theory, how they try to bring you somewhere emotionally, and I think that, to me, is like a drudgery kind of song, and he's trying to, An Inch an Hour, 2 feet a day, kind of a drudgery, slow-moving drudgery, and that's the way the song is, I think.
And that's one of the things that I did find that I liked about this band. It wasn't just lyrically, but musically, they were trying to, what should the music be like on this song?
Yeah.
But
And a lot of times, what you said early on, that the vocal didn't seem to fit with the music, but later it seemed like the music fit the vocal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what the difference is, but it just seemed to turn.
There's some subtlety there, and
Yeah.
I'm like you. When it first, I thought I wasn't going to like any of it, and then, like I said, by the second song, by the end of the first
Yeah.
song, I'm like, I'm in. But for me, thinking that I wasn't going to like any song, and I ended up only not liking one song. I found that interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What'd you think about So Hard Done By? I thought that was like a clean, mean song without being hard. At the same, like it's not really, there's not a lot of gain in it, and it's just the way the delivery of everything just kind of makes it pound real good.
Yeah.
And that groove on that song,
I said,
that groove is just fancy.
not a big fan on the first listen, maybe a second listen. I could be pulled into that one. I felt that it was so deep it's meaningless. I think that I think maybe that's the meaning of the song. It's so deep it's meaningless. I wrote at the end, I was so hard done by this song because I couldn't get to the end of. I mean, I got to the end of it, but again, I think though on a second listen I would like it.
Yeah.
I said, I don't get the lyrics, but great bass part,
Yeah.
great lead guitar
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
and I love the line, "You'll have to wait a minute because it's an Instamatic." Hey, that's from my era.
Yeah,
Yep.
very quirky. Yeah, I love quirkiness.
Yeah.
You give me a quirky lyric all day long. Yes.
We didn't say anything about Greasy Jungle. And I kind of like that one because somebody had obviously died.
Yeah.
And from the songwriter's perspective, he was witnessing.
Even throws a little French in there too, French
Yeah.
Canadian.
I know, and I don't know what that meant. So this song could have a totally different meaning than I give it.
Metropolis Noir is city in the night.
Yeah. I thought it meant something totally different. Okay, so forget what I was getting ready to say. No, I saw that the writer was witnessing friends caring for one another.
Yeah.
And that was probably the song that gave me the most. I liked
Some
it.
satisfaction.
I liked it.
Yeah, they were. I felt that some of the lyrics were just brief, statements of imagery, And at the first, I was like, on the song at first felt very loose to me, but as I started listening to it, there, like I say, I think these are musicians,
Oh, yeah,
kind of like
they are.
Rush,
Yep, yep.
So, but I got to realizing that these songs are really quite heavy. I mean, obviously they're heavier,
Yep.
but they're heavier than they seem.
Yeah,
If that makes
but
sense.
not at the same time.
That's
They
right.
just don't have that grunge and crunch, but
It's-
they're really heavy songs.
And it's not the right word,
Yeah.
ethereal, but what I'm getting at is it's hard to grasp what it is. At times you're like, man, this is heavy, and then you go, well, it's really not that heavy. And you're like, man, this is deep.
Yep.
And yeah, it is deep.
Yep.
And the other songs you're like, that's really not that
Yep.
deep. But I loved
I
it.
get what you're saying. Everything's different.
Yeah,
Yep.
I loved it. And by the end of this song, Greasy Jungle, I was singing along, even though I didn't know the lyrics, and I was grooving with it. I
There's
was
a
like,
good
yeah.
lead break at the end. I
Yes.
put that
Yep.
down.
Definitely. Yep.
And that's a lot of what I look for. If I can't find it in the lyrics, big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I want the lyrics to say something meaningful, but
Yeah.
if they don't, that's not the whole song. That's not the whole delivery.
Yeah. Titanic Terrarium, what'd you think about that?
Wow, I wrote a lot about that.
Oh, you must have either hated it or liked it. One of the two.
I like how he underlines certain things.
I like the Sharpie myself.
Yeah, the Sharpie's a good.
It's sharp.
I have to confess, it's so that I don't have to wear these to read.
Clever.
So it's
Yeah.
out of vanity that you use a Sharpie.
No,
He
just
is
to
a
make
vain
my
man.
list look longer.
Yeah. He's.
No, I didn't have anything down for that.
What'd you think about it?
I like it. of course. I mean,
Yeah.
these are my boys. So
I'll tell you, I like the quirky intro. And what I found interesting is, out of all these songs, his voice always had the same quality.
yeah,
On this one, it was raw.
yeah,
It was less refined. It was rough around the edges. And obviously, it was less poetic. It was more straight on
yeah.
whatever he was talking
Yeah.
about, the terrarium and,
Yep.
and his dad or whoever it was working on the Titanic and whatnot. But I wouldn't say it was one of my favorite songs, but I just thought it was interesting enough that his voice, he chose, at times it was like he was about to lose
Yep.
his voice.
Yeah, it's like out of his range.
Yeah,
almost
and I thought,
sometimes.
all
Yep.
right, that's bold to
Yep.
keep that in there.
Yep.
But again, what we're finding out about this band is it was probably an artistic choice that maybe we do understand at times and maybe we don't.
I think they probably spent an awful lot of time in that realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The art part of it, and spent a lot of energy putting the whole concept together.
Yeah. So would you call these guys an art band?
I would call them that. I think,
I think
they
it
are.
fits. I think
They are. I think that's why they're kind of an acquired taste too.
Yeah.
At first, Grace 2 caught me, but I did have to listen to them a couple times. But it's like once they get the hook in you, it's just it's
Yeah.
all.
And
over
you
with.
are a fisherman. Hey, you understand.
And I mean, they have a big catalog too, and I mean, every album is just better than the next.
So Impossibilium, for me, this started out so strong for me, and then it started getting a little. I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to listen again on a second to make sure I like every song. I'm a fan early on.
Yeah.
In this album, but then I started going, I'm not crazy about some of these songs, but I felt that it ended very strong.
Yeah.
I felt that this song redeemed. It was a good bookend. It was a good ending to it. Had a nice groove. I'm not sure what Rockets and Roses have to do with anything in this song, but I kind of like. I want to name a band Rockets
That's
and Roses.
On Impossibilium, I had the intro was a nice groove,
Yeah.
and the band did great. I felt like there's too much fuzz, but that's me.
I love fuzz, man.
But I was, as far as the vocals, I was back to Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh.
An X on the vocal for me. That one kind of pushed me over the edge.
So here
That
we
pushed me to Kenny G.
Nothing has ever pushed me there, I'll tell you.
So a couple of years ago for my birthday, my wife bought me a fuzz pedal, and it was the EHX, the one with the orange one. That's the Smashing Pumpkins version, right? And she's like, "What does it do?" And I said, "Hang on, baby." And I hook it into my pedal board, and she's like, "So it's a fuzz pedal?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Why do they call it that?" And I went, "Chick, chick." And I started hitting it. She was like, I don't like that. I was like, yeah.
So is that it? Are we at our 3 questions finally?
I think so.
I'm curious what your question is.
Well, before we go there was one line in Thugs
Okay.
that I liked, and it was about the cat when all us birds were around the bird feeder, and the cat was either indifferent or furious,
Yes.
but never neither.
Yep.
So cats are always. And I thought that's right. They're always either indifferent, they could care less about whatever you want, or they're furious.
Yep.
Right.
They'll cut you to shreds.
Yeah.
But again, leaving so much there. That's
Yep,
a
the
deep
that's
thought.
the thing. He's a very provides a lot of imagery
Yes.
for you.
And
And
the-
leaves it open to interpretation a lot.
Yes,
too.
and I like that.
Yeah.
I saw an interview the other day about how boring movies and TV shows have gotten because they got to explain everything to you.
Yeah.
You don't leave any, and it was Alfred Hitchcock said the thing that you don't tell the audience is the most important thing, right? But so that's what we're getting at here. Is the cat furious or what is he? But one of the things I thought that was really well done on this is because you're singing along and you're like, okay, man, I'm into this song, I get it. And the way he starts singing Ruby,
Yep.
I was like, well, that's a bold artistic choice because it fit nothing else in the song.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah. And that made me wonder what is it really about? I mean, is this a Canadian thing?
Yeah.
Is it that I can't possibly get it?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And,
Either way, it's fun.
I mean, bands do stuff that turn them on too. I mean, that could be a little, the band. Hey, I want to do that. I want to try it, and they're like, "Go ahead."
This could be a little happy accident, because we hear about that sometimes.
Like, did Gord just do that?
Right, because sometimes you hear those stories, you go, "Well, how did you come up with that riff or whatever?" And they go, "It was a total accident."
Yep.
It could be he sung it wrong, and they're like, "Dude, keep it. That's kind of cool."
It's like the stutter in my generation.
Yes, because that was an accident.
Yep. He was making fun of his cousin or brother or something.
Yeah.
So.
Pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, mixed reviews, I guess. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised.
I said after Thugs, which there were still songs to go, but I made the comment to myself.
I said self.
I said self.
That's going on a shirt. I said self.
This music keeps me jamming, but keeps my stomach churning. So I guess that's where
As long as you're feeling something, to me, it's doing something. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
No, I agree.
I was afraid I was going to have to take a Xanax or something.
I don't know where I heard this once. It was years ago. It might have been when I was doing stand-up, but somebody said, art, you should either love or hate art. If somebody just goes, you didn't do your job.
Yep.
As an artist, you didn't do your job. So I'm going to tell you this, though. I love it. I love it. I'm a fan. I will listen to this on the way to the skating rink tonight. Yes, and I'm going to a 55-year-old man going to go break his hip tonight at the skating rink at a birthday party. Why
And
not?
you're going to have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Are you going to be the only man at the skating party?
All right, so I've been to 3 kids' birthday parties, and in 2 of them I was the only dude there. And in those 2 that I was the only dude there, I was... Other than the parents, right? I was the only one out there skating that was beyond 11 years old.
Oh, nice. That sounds like a Will Ferrell scene or something.
Yes. And literally, and I'm barely getting by, right? And
You're tackling all the kids, getting them out.
And as they're going around me, they're going, "You suck!" And I'm like, "Oh." So, but anyway, yes. But I like this band. I'm going to listen to it tonight. So I guess we are to the questions.
All right. Who wants to go first?
I hadn't thought of one for this one.
He's stumped.
I've got one.
All right.
It just hit me. It's out of the blue, man. Because there are times that when you're listening to this, you're going, well, that's very Stanley Kubrick, because he was like, what's he saying here, right? So in the vein of Stanley Kubrick and all this. So there's the scene in Clockwork Orange where they've got Malcolm, right? And they've got him strapped there, and
his eyes are
open, and they're forcing him to watch all these images. Do we force somebody to listen to this album?
You already did.
I say yes, because the more you hear it and the more you take it in, the more you love it.
And that's exactly what that scene was about. They were conditioning him to be violent, to accept the violence. So we're going to be conditioning people to love Tragically Hip. All right. I know it went weird. Bob always takes it weird.
I don't know. I don't know if I can definitively answer that.
Let's make this easier for you. What's your point system? So tell us. Was this not even points worthy?
Well, I'll be
you?
honest with you. After the first time I listened to it, it probably was only going to get a 34, and
out of.
I'm not going to tell you that part. But it probably got an easy 82.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For those
82.
of you who are just now tuning in, if this is your first episode, Bob has come up with this arcane and complex system,
very complex,
which we love.
And I dare say fluid concept.
Depending on the genre and whether or not he likes the album, it could have 4,000 possible points or 12.
Or 10 or...
It's very complicated. It's a complicated system.
I've known you since 2009. How many years?
That's a long time.
3 years.
Yes. I've
3.5,
never
I
known you to
think.
be a complicated man until we started this podcast, dude. You were, whew.
Well, the scoring.
I didn't even know you knew trigonometry.
Well, there's a lot that goes into it.
This is bobonometry.
It's like Bidenomics. You know?
Oh, don't say
Oh.
that. Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, I always go with my typical question. Do you think it should be taught in schools?
Because of the fact that it's all the things we've gone over, with it being artistic, with it being a different culture, if you call it that.
Interesting. Yeah.
There are things there that are built into this that I probably go along with it being taught. I wouldn't, nix it.
Yeah. And I would say it is just because of the interpretation of all the songs. I think you could have a class of 30 kids and have 30 different meanings to the songs.
I mean, that's why we teach literature and poetry, or
Yeah.
we used to in schools now.
Yeah.
So, I get that, and I like your angle on that, Bob. Hey, while it's a flavor of what we had in America at the
Yep.
time, there's a cultural
Yep.
approach to it.
That makes it something's interesting about that in my mind.
Yeah.
No, I
Definitely.
like it. Yeah, for
Yep.
just for that.
Yep,
Just for that
definitely.
alone. But I mean, I agree with you too.
Yep,
So
yep.
very good, Bob.
I mean, you're smarter than you look.
Well, but you gotta teach the kids not so much fuzz. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's
That reminds me of Huey Lewis in Back to the Future. You're just way too loud.
yes. Yes. I just saw that scene the other day. It was just a little clip.
Well, I guess on that, we'll end on a Huey Lewis note, I guess.
Yeah.
As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends,
5 stars.
check out our podcast. Stay cool, stay uncool.
Yeah.
Like what you like. Deuces.